Dir schaffen wir die Klimawende. Jetzt bewerben. Wiener Stadtwerke-Gruppe.
Today, I brought a question for you, and I want you to answer it honestly. Do you think that solving the climate crisis is your problem? Like, is it on your to-do list? Do you base your decisions in life on whether or not we will achieve the necessary transition and decarbonize our society in time? People often tell us climate activists, "Wow, this is so great what you're doing. Thank you. Finally, somebody is taking care of it. I could never do that. Thank you so much. All the best for your mission. Bye." Well, don't get me wrong. Appreciation and support for climate activism are absolutely essential. It keeps us going. It makes us fight even harder. But the one thing appreciation cannot do is to fight this fight for you. Let me tell you why. First, the climate crisis is not an issue you can choose to pay attention to or not. This is not a hobby, a special dedication, or some reverie. We are not doing this for the climate. The climate doesn't care. We are doing this for us. Creating attention to the fact that our political and economic leaders keep on building and subsidizing new fossil fuel infrastructure, while at the same time the destruction of our ecosystems, our natural carbon sinks, is unhalted, is pure self-protection. Never before in human history we have emitted more greenhouse gases than today. And never before in human history we have faced the risk to destabilize our climate, the basis of everything. This is not a problem of the future we can deal with at some point later in our lives, when we have finished our careers or finally find the time to try something new. Quite the contrary, the climate crisis threatens the lives and livelihoods of millions of people, especially in the global south, already today. And its consequences would increase in frequency and strength for the rest of our lives. Do you base your decisions on that? Even if we stop all emissions overnight, what will certainly not happen. The damage that is already done due to the emissions of the past, let alone the billions of tons to come, the consequences of global heating will increase in the coming decades. Scientists tell us very clearly, heat waves, droughts, crop failures, flooding, and the mass extinction of species pose deadly threats to our civilization. Our very existence is dependent on intact ecosystems and a stable climate. It is not radical, benevolent, or especially passionate to choose the side of climate activism. It is radical not to. When it comes to the survival of our civilization, one cannot take a neutral stance. Continuing business as usual radically ignores the fact that we have only limited time and limited emissions to spend. Climate science knows we have to halve our emissions by 2030 and reach climate neutrality by 2050 on a global scale. And to achieve this massive, necessary transition, we have to start now. Otherwise, we will risk triggering domino effects in the climate system that can make vast areas of the planet uninhabitable until the end of the century. Let me be crystal clear once again. We cannot adapt to the current pathway we are on. We cannot adapt to runaway climate change. Second, shifting the responsibility to climate protesters or the young generation to make this crisis a top priority is immoral and simply a very naive bet. As activists, we spend endless hours of criticizing half-baked policy proposals, calling out greenwashing attempts of powerful companies, and lobbying policymakers who still refuse to act on the Paris Agreement themselves. I'm one of the oldest activists. I'm 27 now, and I'm one of the oldest activists at Fridays for Future. While many of us have become experts in communication, campaigning, or climate policy by now in their early 20s, this can simply not be the responsibility of youth strikers to make up for the major economic and political failure of our time. Third, the media love to polarize and portray the fight against the climate crisis like a football match. Welcome, it's climate activists versus climate change. Oh, the fossil fuel industry increased the production of oil and gas. What will be the next move of the activists? Will they become more radical? Oh, now they block the streets. That was bad. Like this, they will never win. Do they really have to make it a problem of everyone? Of course, media attention is good. It's our currency. It's how we create public discourse and raise attention. It's great to see that more and more activists are invited into newsrooms to shift the debate. But the narrative of these climate activists over here and you normal people over there is creating an artificial division line that is helping nobody. In reality, the front line that we need to focus on lies between the common good of civil society and the particular interests of fossil corporations to keep their business models running. Fossil corporations have profited from climate destruction and blocked the necessary political changes for decades. It is very well documented how the fossil industry helped to organize climate disinformation campaigns and spread doubt about the scientific consensus on global warming. This is not about the particular interest of climate activists to reduce emissions. This is about the particular interests of fossil corporations to keep on making profit out of climate destruction. Lastly, to think that climate activists are taking care of the problem, to think that someone else is taking care of it all, is just another way of neglecting our role in a world shaped by an escalating climate crisis. Maybe you had different plans. For me, I never planned to be a climate activist. But at some point, ignoring the problem became more painful than stepping up and actively doing something against it. We have to let our climate reality into our lives. The uncertainty, the pain, the distress. It is a privilege not to be concerned yet. Maybe you will feel overwhelmed, betrayed, or fragile. This is human. Maybe you don't feel ready or prepared or informed enough. That's okay. That's how everyone started. But we have to be honest and realize this is our problem right here, right now, and nobody else is going to save our livelihoods unless we do it on our own. Neglecting our shared responsibility has brought us nowhere. We have to stop living our lives as if there was no climate emergency. The problem we are facing is the lack of an adequate societal and political response to solve this mess we're in right now. But climate activists alone will not be able to initiate the necessary changes in all sectors of society. Maybe you're working in health, education, research, agriculture, finance, energy, mobility, or something completely different. I guarantee you that whatever you do in your day-to-day life is connected to the causes or consequences of climate change. So I invite you to ask yourself, how is your life or your work affected by the climate crisis? And how can you help the fight against it? Where are your strengths? And where can you organize with others to amplify our political and collective power as civil society and become part of the change? Once you have answered these questions for yourself, you might know better what your place in the struggle can be. Make the climate crisis your problem too. We need everyone's courage, will, action, and perspective. We need you in the debate. This is indeed our human moment and the decisive turning point of our time. It is hard work. It is not easy. But every day, more and more people will stand up because it is the right thing to do. We cannot know if it will be enough in the end. But the fight for climate justice has already begun, and now it's your part to join. Welcome.